Hello and welcome to another edition of Issues with Jide. Here we talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our political and national landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Sheta. Today on the show, UN orders Nigeria to release Nnamdi Kanu, pay reparation. Also, Obasanjo tells Nigerian youth to grab leadership now. And later on the show, ASUU strike, NLC insists on nationwide protest. In the course of the program, we'll take your questions, but first, subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop your questions in the comment section. I have joining me via Zoom, the maestro himself, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. It's good to see you again, BKO.
Oh, good evening, Ibrahim.
Thank you so much for joining. Now, let's begin with the UN on Nnamdi Kanu saga. The United Nations has asked Nigerian government to immediately release Nnamdi Kanu unconditionally and pay him adequate compensations for the arbitrary violation of his fundamental human rights. So it's also recommended that government officials responsible for the torture meted out on the IPOB leader be investigated and punished. How do you see the federal government responding to this?
It's difficult to predict how exactly they are going to respond. But, of course, the government will try its best to defend itself, but it has to defend itself within the ambit of United Nations conventions. This whole problem emanated from the forceful arrests and relocation of Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya to Nigeria. There are internationally guaranteed rights that the UN working group that indicted the UN working group on the detention, arbitrary detention, has indicted Nigeria and Kenya of. Ideally, if you want to put someone on trial, a fugitive who ran away from your country, if you want to put him on trial and he's in another country, he has to go through an extradition trial. In this case, there was no extradition trial in place. Nnamdi Kanu didn't go through any form of extradition trial, yet he was forcefully brought to Nigeria, and in Nigeria now is facing trial before a federal high court. As far as the working group of the UN Human Rights Council is concerned, this was a gross violation of Nnamdi Kanu's rights. As far as they are concerned, Nigeria and Kenya stand indicted for the manner they brought Nnamdi Kanu to the country. It violates international convention, violates international law to forcefully drag a man out of another country and bring him to his country to face trial in the manner in which Nnamdi Kanu was brought to Nigeria by force. So, for this reason, Nigeria stands indicted. My own position is both Kenya and Nigeria are signatories to this convention. So they are morally obligated to comply, because if you are not signatories to the convention, then it's the content of the convention is not binding on you. But if you made up your mind that, look, this is good for me and my people, and you sign up to it, it is then incumbent on you to comply. The UN Human Rights Council itself is a product of the United Nations resolution. So it then means that as a country affiliated to the United Nations, we have to comply with these resolutions. And from the tone of this 16-page report, it is clear that they mean business, because the working group is asking Nigeria to get back to it within 6 months of receiving this indictment, showing it how it is complying, showing the UN agency how it is, the UN working group, how it is complying with the directive handed over. It's also asking that Nigerian officials who are involved in the legal arrest of Kanu, without him being subjected to an extradition trial, should be punished. And they are interested in knowing every step of the way what we are doing to comply with his resolution. So, and it is saying that it will not stop at that, that it would take further actions against Nigeria. Now, we don't know what actions could be taken against Nigeria. We don't know yet. There are all kinds of options open to them, but as I said earlier, if you are a signatory to a UN convention, a UN charter, then you are obligated, at least morally and sensibly, to comply with the content of that, that UN convention or UN charter. This is where this has left us. As for when the working group on arbitrary detention, so under the UN Human Rights Council, sent a query to Nigerian authorities and the Kenyan authorities, the Kenyans refused to answer, but the Nigerian officials answered. But the UN working group on arbitrary detention was not convinced by the explanations offered by the Nigerian authorities, especially on the whether Kanu has committed treason and so deserved the treatment that he got. They were not convinced at all, and it's not difficult to understand why they were not convinced. As far as they are concerned, based on international law, based on international convention, once you want somebody extradited to face trial in your country, you got to let that person go through an extradition trial. The court of the land would then determine whether to release him or not. How would Nigerians feel if the Americans just stormed Abuja and grabbed Abba Kyari, the highly decorated police officer who was accused of working hand in hand with some of the most notorious advanced fee fraudsters in the world? One of those advanced fee fraudsters is a man from Nigeria who was said to have met Abba Kyari in Dubai. The Americans have their indictment in place, but they have not stormed our country to say they are going to forcibly abduct Abba Kyari and take him to the US to face trial. I know the Americans have done that in the past, and when they did that, they were roundly condemned. I can't, as a person, condemn America for abducting Manuel Noriega, the former president of Panama, and some of the other world leaders that they had taken prisoner, and then say that my country did the right thing in the way it handled the Kanu matter. Whatever is right, whatever is wrong is wrong. If the UN convention is that a person should undergo extradition trial when the request is made for that person, then that should be the law. That should be the way people are taken out of another country to face trial in the country where they are deemed to have infringed on the laws of the land. So we didn't do that in the case of Kanu. We took him by force. We subjected him to inhumane conditions and brought him to Nigeria, where he is now facing trial. What we did was against international laws. No matter what anyone feels, it was against international law, and that is why this indictment has come. And Nigeria must not take steps that will cause it to be treated as a pariah nation, that will cause some of our partners that we cherish to begin to see us as a lawless nation, as a nation that does not respect the UN charters and the UN conventions.
Yeah, right. So, but if you look at the Nigerian government, and their disposition to Nnamdi Kanu, and how they really want to get back at him based on some of the allegations that were laid against him in the court of law. And some of the things, the outburst of Nnamdi Kanu, you know, the radio Biafra, the instigation of, you know, further fueling, allegedly fueling the NSAS, and some of the things that we saw on the social media, in the grapevine, about what he said. Do you see this government, and despite the entreaties from within the country that Nnamdi Kanu should be released, you know, dialogue and all that, but do you see this government releasing Nnamdi Kanu come what may? Or this administration looking at it from there?
No, as I said earlier, it's difficult to predict them. These guys are difficult to predict. I know they feel strongly about putting Nnamdi Kanu on trial. I want to believe that they may just let this matter slide. They may not take any action. But not taking action when you are indicted is also bad enough for Nigeria. I'm concerned about how Nigeria will be viewed by some of his partners in the UN. We are a country that relies a lot on our partners. We are a country that relies on foreign donor agencies and the rest. So if we do not conduct ourselves legally and in a dignified manner, we risk incurring the wrath of some of our best friends. That is the way I see it. So government has to behave sensibly, know what is good in the circumstance. And if it is not convinced that it had done anything wrong, then it has to get back across to the United Nations in a strongly worded manner and explain its position and why it needed urgently to take the steps that it had taken. But I doubt if even that will impress the UN people, because the conditions that must be met before a person can be extradited for trial in another country have not been met. We resorted to self-help. We carried it out in a legal manner, and the way we have done it has angered people in the UN, and that is why this indictment has come. Of course, I know that the foreign ministry will be thinking of the right steps to take on this issue. We've seen countries defy the UN. It's not a new thing, but I still want to see my country, if it must disagree with the UN, do it in a very sensible manner. Absolutely. It makes no sense to do what they did when Nigerian security officials raided the home of Sunday Igboho. And it's just similar to this one. You can't win in court. If anyone takes you to court citing arbitrary arrest, you are certainly not going to win. And that was why they lost that case. Sunday Igboho defeated them in that case. So I'm not surprised that you remember too that even the attack on Nnamdi Kanu's home, his father's house, they also lost a case in court. So when you resort to self-help, you take aggressive steps to arrest someone or show your anger towards someone in a manner that contravenes the UN Charter or the UN conventions, of course, you are going to be indicted. And that is what has happened. There can be no arguing that the steps that we took to bring Nnamdi Kanu to Nigeria were against international convention, international acceptable standards. And the view of the UN is that the internationally guaranteed rights of Nnamdi Kanu were breached in bringing him to our country by force from Kenya. There's no way Nigeria can wash itself clean on this manner. This was not the right way to do it. Absolutely. And we stand indicted.
All right. So let's move on. But before then, Kingsley Eze said, Jide, I always respect you, sir. You always say the truth without fear. May God continue to bless you and keep you for us. Fabian Akeze says, Nigeria must defy the UN at all costs. MNK has brought pain and anger to the people of Igbo land and deprived them of their fundamental human rights as a Nigerian. That's his opinion. But let's move on because of our time. We're really behind time. Never let anybody tell you that you are leaders of tomorrow. That tomorrow may never come. These are the words of former President Olusegun Obasanjo to the youth. So, looking at our present-day youth,
fantastic piece of advice from Olusegun Obasanjo. That's the way I would have wanted him to speak to these young people, because for so long, the young people in our country have been told, oh, your time will come, you are the leaders of tomorrow. Elderly people in their 70s, in their 80s, they are not allowing the young people to become the leaders of tomorrow. I remember one editor saying to General Babajide that when he was in the NYC camp, General Babajide visited them and said, look, you are the leaders of tomorrow. But that more than 20 years after, the same General Babajide wanted to contest for the presidency of Nigeria, that when will that time come for the young people? And the unfortunate thing is that if they were even ruling Nigeria the right way, if they were providing the right kind of leadership for for Nigerians, no one will be talking about alternatives to them. But what we see is a legacy, a heritage of poor leadership by the current ruling class. And the current ruling class has a lot of old people, people who by now ought to have left the scene, people who by now, some of them should even be in jail. They are the people ruling us, and they are reluctant to let the young people take over the scene. Power is never served à la carte. The young people have to take power by force from the elderly people, the old ruling class. That's the message from Obasanjo. Young people have to infiltrate the parties, get into the parties, register en masse, and make their votes and their voices count. For so long, their voices had not been heard. This is the time for the young people to show that, look, they want to have a bigger say in how our country is run. For so long, our young people had been interested simply in entertainment and other things. But you must not be apolitical. You must show interest in politics, because that's your future. You must play a part in determining who gets to rule you as a person. That is what a lot of our young people don't do. They are not prepared to vote. They see politics as a dirty game. It is not politics that is dirty. It's some of the people involved in it that are dirty. And with young people, more and more young people who have bright ideas coming in, they will sanitize the political arena, and I'm sure that Nigeria will be better for it in terms of quality leadership. That's the message from Obasanjo. You may say that, Obasanjo has had his time, but Obasanjo was relatively young when he became president. You know, in the 30s, people were able to become president of Nigeria, military president. But these days, what do we see? 70, 80-year-olds are battling to enter the National Assembly. So they've left just the crumbs for the young people. And Obasanjo is telling them, this is your time. This is your time. I think that the young people, I'm seeing a good sign that the young people this time around want to become the moral compass of our country. And we've seen some of them supporting Peter Obi. A good number of the young people think that Peter Obi represents a new broom. They see Peter Obi as somebody more decent than a lot of the politicians around. So I wish them luck. Let them get more involved in politics. Let them join the political parties. Let them vote, come out in large numbers to vote. That is the only way they can make a difference with their votes. Obasanjo has told them the truth. This is their chance. The current greedy ruling class will not surrender power to you. You must fight for it. You must take that power from them by all means possible, because they are not going to surrender it to you.
The point I was trying to make was that looking at our present day youth, you've actually alluded to it, but I just wanted you to clarify, you know, looking at the current day youth on social media, the way they talk, what they say, you know, all of the trends, especially on the social media space, how would you correlate these youth to Mr. Obasanjo's inspirational advice? Are they the kind of youth that we really want to see, you know, in power?
Well, a lot of young people resort to abusing people on social media. I'm a victim of them because I'm active on Facebook, for example. I'm not so active on Twitter anymore, and I've also refused to keep my Instagram page active. But I'm active on Facebook because Facebook is more flexible. You are able to relate. You are able to talk at length on Facebook, so it's more flexible. I stay there a lot, and they also abuse me. But once they are frustrated, you see them show extreme anger, even when you argue with them, when they need to keep their shape. When they get angry, they abuse people. But it's all due to frustration. Many of them, as you know, have been out of school, no job for them to do. There's no the employment situation in Nigeria. The unemployment situation in Nigeria is so scary at about 42%. Young people, 42% of our young people are unemployed. That is a kind of ticking time bomb. So they are showing their frustration on social media because the social media puts power in their hands. They can abuse their parents. They can abuse people older than their parents. It is frustration that is pushing them. Frustration about the way Nigeria is going. How can Naira, for example, be exchanging for the dollar at 654, 658 Naira? And somebody still calls himself CBN governor, is still sitting there, still behaving like he's actually doing a good job when he's doing a fantastically terrible job. So these young people are angry, they are just showing their frustration. I still think that even amongst these angry people, there are talents who will do a better job than some of the old people who have literally invaded our political landscape.
Right, lots and lots of comments here. I think I will be able to take them before we end the show, but because of our time, let me quickly rush to our last topic, which is about 40 unions, including the aviation workers. They have threatened to participate in a rally in solidarity with the ASUU strike. But the federal government said the NLC's involvement is being motivated by partisan interest and was supposed to be completely insulated from politics. So the question is, why has the ASUU strike defied, possible solution, and what do you think should be done at this point in time?
First and foremost, I'll be happy to see not just a protest, but an NLC strike to drive home the need for government to resolve these outstanding issues with ASUU. Government has not handled this ASUU manner in a responsible manner. 5 months since February, students have been at home, and you are not bothered just because for nearly all of you, your children do not go to school here in Nigeria. I mean, why should a government feel that students can stay at home for 5 months? They've already lost quality time during the COVID lockdown. So we are damaging the lives of these young people, and we are also damaging our education sector by the manner in which the government is handling this matter. Government set up 2 different committees to renegotiate the 2009 agreement that was reached with ASUU during the Yar'Adua years. Clearly, the resolutions, the recommendations of those 2 panels did not make government happy. Starting with the Musalin Jibrin panel, as well as the Neme Briggs panel. All that government can do is call these people and say, see, I've seen the report of the Neme panel, which seeks to increase the wages of professors by 180%. We cannot pay. There are other things here in this report that we cannot implement. President Buhari is a father. He should play the father figure, play the role of a father figure. Call these people and say, look, you are all my children. I want this strike to end, and it has to end today. These are the things that you have asked for. I can do this. I can't do this. I need you to meet me in the middle. I'm sure that if we will speak to ASUU like that, and the guarantee of improved funding of federal universities is received, because there has to be improved funding of the universities so that the public universities can have improved infrastructure. If that does not happen, if the decay continues, federal universities will become more and more unfashionable for people to go to. They will not be attractive to young people. Whereas these universities are our heritage. We can't fold our arms and watch them die. We are products, people like me are products of the public university system. The ministers are products of the public university system. Someone like Fashola attended the University of Benin, which they used to describe at that time as UniBest. Would he be happy to see UniBen collapse? And at the rate they are going, just setting up new universities, the funding for the old existing universities continues to dry up. Some of the universities are only getting by because they have very good alumni that are providing some alternative funding and all that. There has to be guaranteed quality funding for public universities so that the public universities will not die. Not every Nigerian parent can send his children to private universities. The private universities are too expensive. That is why some of us support ASUU's demand for stop supporting them, because it is good for everyone, for our public universities to remain real centers of excellence, to remain attractive, and to remain international citadels of quality education the way they used to be in the 60s, the 70s, and even in the 80s.
Well, quite interesting. BKO, let me quickly take some comments here. To Niger says, ASUU has destroyed our universities with constant strikes while soldiers are dying to keep the nation safe. Well, that's his point. Fabian Akese says, there was never a time that Nigeria was good. As things got worse, Nigerians began to speak on the time when things were better, forgetting the change factor and the increased population. I'm trying to look for comments that actually relates to our very last topic. I think a lot of people are actually quite interested in political matters. Some say in favor of none, are saying even the constitution is not helping matter. Which constitution is Peter Obi going to use? And Frank Ukeme says, BKO, you're doing great. I really appreciate you. And Sunday says, BKO is fully obedient. I don't know whether you want to react to that.
I have some sympathy for the young people. Frankly, Nigeria was a lot better when I was in my 20s. And I long for that Nigeria to return. That the Nigeria of that time, I long for it to return. People do not know that there was a time that Nigerian Airways was even donating aircraft to Emirates Airlines. Today, Emirates is one of the best 5 in the world. You know, if Boeing comes up with a new aircraft now, Emirates will be amongst the biggest airlines that will purchase the highest units. That's the same Emirates that used to do a C-check at the Nigerian Airways hangar here in Lagos. So Nigeria used to be good. Our currency was strong at a point, even stronger than the dollar. So it is not true that there was no time that Nigeria was good. When I was growing up, Nigeria was really good, really, really very good. People coming out of universities, they are even guaranteed of employment even before they leave the universities. They will be chasing you. Those who will give you a job will be chasing you all over the place. Nigeria used to be very good. I traveled by flight for the first time in 1985, and I paid 42 naira from Ilorin to Kaduna. Today, there was a particular day that I had to pay 120,000 for a flight. So I've seen a better Nigeria. And if these young people are asking for a better Nigeria, I feel it in their voices. I feel it in their voices. I support them. I support the emergence of a better Nigeria. I do not belong to any political party, but I do not oppose the obedient group. I do not oppose them. There are some things that they stand for that I also stand for, because I'm radical. Our views align in some ways. So I cannot say I'm obedient, but there are some things that the obedient group push for, which I also push for as a person who loves his country and who wants the progress of his country. So in some ways, we may actually be on the same page.
Makes sense.
But I'm not by that saying that I'm obedient.
You're not partisan. Let's put it that way.
I'm not. I'm just Babajide.
You're Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. Unfortunately,
Yes.
Ibrahim Isaac Dantijo says, our youth are not ready to take up power. When they are ready, they will stand to their feet. I really didn't get the point, but he's actually, the bottom line is that the youth are not really ready based on his own, the way he actually sees things. Well, and that's our show, actually, for today's edition of Issues with Jide. Special thanks to you, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju, for those insightful analyses, as always. And I must say to you that according to my producer, he just made me realize that we've got close to 9,000 views, and we currently have 2.8 thousand views, 2,800 views, live currently. But over time, throughout this show, we've got close to 9,000 views, and the views are actually, increasing by the day. BKO.
Yes, the program is getting popular by the day, and I think it's because we are choosing the right topics, the topics that strike the right chord in the hearts of especially the young people. The future of Nigeria belongs to the young people. The country has been badly managed, damaged by the ruling class, but Nigeria is yearning for a rebirth, a renewal, and I know that that is what these young people want, and that will happen in the fullness of time.
And my director has just said that he had seen the analytics that actually showed him that we've actually struck 10,000 views as we speak. But then we say thank you, our audience, for always joining us on every edition. You can always see this program again by going to our YouTube channel, TVC News Nigeria. Really appreciate it. On behalf of the team, bye for now.